Hey guys, welcome back to another Vanguard video. Today is DZ-BT10 Dragonsoul Resonance release, and so I'm going to be talking about some of the cards that you probably forgot about. First off, we're going to talk about the meta cards first, the more important and more pricey ones from the set. So as you can see, we've got the full page here. I'm just going to start with this before I start clicking to the individual page that I've saved up here. The most relevant stuff is most definitely the Magnetism Monster, Magnetism. This is technically support for Edaglima as well, but mostly for Ava is what you usually see it in. And Edaglima, it's basically used to fish out the one Moflash that still isn't completely banned yet. Don't ask me why. And for the rest of this set, we basically have a lot of really cool niche support. Like from this page alone, we can see, we got Bastion. There's also a back row attacker to like have more blast token hate, which is hilarious. We have Zedland supports. We have, of course, the brand new Venator, which is really cool. I called him Venator before because that was the translation. We also have support for Artisaria and for Lishkafil. They're kind of like okay double rares. They're not insane, but still good enough to be probably used at a few off in the deck. I know I've definitely seen a lot of JP lists with the Dragonsoul Resonance double rare for Artisaria just to fish out cards. You get a full column of tokens. But as you can see, the most expensive cards are the most popular ones, which are Liael-Draconis, of course the Ava support, and then of course Magnus and the THIRD Mythisch. So THIRD Mythisch is pretty much a custom card. It's just so good for this deck. On place, you basically reveal a grade 3 card with Vice in your red deck, or you reveal that you're on a Vice Vanguard. You have to check top 5, choose up to one card from among them, or Lunarite card, which is all of your orders, reveal, put into your hand. So basically on place, check top 5 for free, which is crazy. You could just, if you hit, you hit. If you don't hit, it's whatever. Because you still have the end of battle skill that on boost, if you have grade 3 greater Vanguard Vice Trigger, you shove it to Soul and countercharge 1. Then if you Persona Road this turn, the secondary effect for the first auto, you can E3 search your deck for up to one Lunarite card. So most of the time you're using the first skill to check top 5, but of course you still do have the other option. And of course this can be hit off, your Mood Gate and activating Mood Gate again off Vice Ruger's skill. So this card just does so much for the deck. It's free resources, free check top 5. It is just an insane card for the deck. For Magnus, this is pretty straightforward. I remember doing the hyped reveal video for that. Magnus didn't turn out anywhere as well as I was hyping it up to be in in JP when it came out. But I do think Magnus itself is still quite a strong Vanguard, and going forth, it's still something you're going to have to watch out for. And you can fish up Quenlu, which is something my friend played a lot for this deck. And of course, that set to 0, as well as the crit increase is quite strong when your opponent's grade 3 or greater. And then of course has the limit break effect to give one of your demonic jewel dragons dry +1. And so you usually give this to Liael-Draconis in the build. A lot of builds, because they are playing the Ignis Magnus package, will usually only play Liael-Draconis at 1. Some people will vouch to play 2 or 3. It really depends on your preference, honestly. But you can get that twin drive effect. So if you did go second and you had to eat like 4 damage, you have 4 drives to work with as a comeback mechanic. So your opponent has to be really wary of that. It's mostly for this skill, which is just amazing. Like you call it Soft Orbital or Off Zagan, whatever. You get to you may Soul Charge, so not mandatory Soul Charge. E3 calls something out from Soul, just amazing. And at worst, it's just a 5k shield in your hand. So Liael-Draconis Magnus, definitely the big things to upgrade. I think you still want to go into Ignis as your endgame, but the options to have Magnus are there, and some people do like to play 1, usually 2. It's kind of weird because you either want to play 0-2 due to deck space of Drajeweled Magnuses in order to basically have the Drajeweled into Soul to get the +5 for the extra power on your first turn. And of course the new Ride line helps with that as well, but if you want to play a more aggressive playstyle, you can play the older Ride line. Magnetism Monster here is just insane. Mostly it is in Ava and Edaglima. I'm sure there's some other decks I'm forgetting that can use it as well. It's quite the generic card. On place on Rearguard Circle, other than by unit card's ability, if you played a set order this turn, you Soul Blast 1, check top 5, go to Rearguard Circle if it's a unit card, put into hand if it's a set order, so pretty good deck thinning. And then when attacking grade 3 greater unit, if your order zone has set order, it gets +5. If you have a Vanguard with Monster, it gets +10 set up +5. So basically in Archite and in Edaglima, in Ava, you'll basically only get this +5, but I mean, you have your Persona Ride, you have big boosters, it's good enough. So this is basically just to build a board very easily, lots of early rush, basically your teeth fault for brand, and it just makes Ava's early game a lot more consistent. Like Ava's early game was already pretty decent before, like you already hit Imigar, Combine, I believe it's Regalia, I might be saying the name wrong, for the generic from set 9 that calls itself from drop. But this is just a more bigger consistency piece, and if you do want to play the Warcrime Edaglima deck, then you definitely do need 4 of this. As you can see, it is basically the most expensive triple rare in the set right now, besides like Draconis and Magnus. Draconis is kind of in a weird spot because we know we're not getting the Nebulite order until DZ set 12, and I believe that is in February, so this deck really is in a big nerf, I would say, until it gets that, because that is really big pitch fodder for the effects. But I mean, at the same time, the deck will still function fine. It's just kind of underwhelming for, you know, the kind of update that it got. And when you compare and look at the meta we have right now, we have a really fast meta and, you know, deck with really big numbers in removal, mostly the red decks. Heart Luru and Ava easily tri-lane you and like beat the crap out of you extremely easy early, and that's not even getting to like the buddy fight decks and other things in the meta, as well as set 11 such as Leonard in Prison and, you know, the upgrades to Youth. So I think Liael-Draconis is a deck that might be able to reward you if you spend a lot of time on it, but it's also not a super easy deck to play, at least in my opinion. Like you could literally just pick up Minerva or Youth, and I think if you put times into those, they're a lot easier to kind of play in a tournament setting or just at your locals, compared to this where it feels like a lot of extra work and steps you have to do in order to really have the payoff. And that's how I feel when I play Jiva. But, you know, this is basically how Draconis wants to play, but the high roll is there and it's really fun. But the biggest problem for Draconis is until we get a full list of, you know, Gab and, sorry, the master deck set, basically, if Gab gets reprinted, it's pretty hard to build this deck. It's quite expensive. Gab is around, I believe, 20 to 50 USD or something ridiculous. So he's pretty hard to get a hold of, or more so expensive. So you definitely need 4 Gabs if you want to play Draconis, which is a problem. Almav isn't that expensive. Oh, these are listing prices, by the way. You can see the normal market prices right here. I didn't point that out because I assume most people know what TCG Player is, but I probably should have said that at the beginning. So for Knight of Distance Almav, this is a card that's basically giving +5 to all your front row rears, which is pretty strong. It also lets you energy charge 1, so whether you went first or second, you kind of build up your energy so you have the cost to pay for the E4 blast. And yeah, it's also just more soul because you really run out of soul really fast. A lot of people are still quite, you know, indifferent on whether you want Sequence Wizard or not for that extra soul. I think it really is just a preference for how you manage your soul and how tight it does feel on certain turns. But for Alma specifically, you still have to play it because it's just such a strong card. Like +5 to your rears, when you are calling that many rears, especially on your Divine skill turn, is quite strong. Alright, so I'm at 7 minutes, still have some time to yap about stuff. We have Viral Hidi here. I'm going to yap while it loads the page because we have some pretty cool Impaldia support. I remember doing a whole video on this when it came out. I do think it is kind of a card, especially if you do main it. As you see, it's also not very hyped or expensive as well, but it is basically your easy 4th attack for the deck. And, you know, it is Soul Blast 2, draw 1, but you do need to have those automatic gauges. So it's kind of awkward because usually in Impaldio, not to say this card is bad at all, but usually what you want to do is Soul Blast out first to get, you know, cards to drop for your automod gauge, and then, you know, draw 1 later. So it's kind of weird that they want you to have the 2 automod gauges before the Soul Blast draw 1 in terms of card design. You know, it is the first wave CB1 restand, kind of nice to have an upgrade for Impaldio there. We have the new Resale card, Impervious Dragon, Akina used in the anime, 15k shield, 15k power, sometimes 20k power, just so same power as Nobris if you call it off Resale skill. We also have Tick Down Dragon, which is pretty big support for Amorta, I would say. Really nice to hit your grade 3 targets in the deck. Let's see, what else do we have here? Oh, we have the Random Virgon for Hound Risers. We have Bombing Juggler for Blangmire, really out of nowhere. We have the Argo Siren support / Aquaforce. These cards are actually pretty big for Argo Siren, I would say. Summer Prodigy is definitely something you have to look out for. If you saw the promo video, I talked about this briefly for the restanding boosters, because this first skill is actually generic, this part here, for the auto back row restand. So if something in the front row restands, it'll also restand as well. But this is mostly for post-hit Bav if Trick Moon does get set to 1, especially before, you know, the seasons of, you know, before Worlds, where you basically have a lot of, like, you know, space now in terms of Soul Draw 1 and, you know, restanding booster as well, especially, I think in the Veilord builds, not Veilord builds, in the Ars Verena builds, where you are playing Bowers and the other random pile stuff, you don't really need this. But it is nice to pick up. It's also super cheap right now, as you can see, especially because it's a double rare and it's, you know, day 1 of release. So do pick it up if you do play Bav, because it will likely come up in the future, unless you are just sticking to that one same build where you kind of just draw and go through your deck and just find everything and just play like normal Bav instead of going for the Ars Verena and other crazy gimmick stuff. So that's pretty much the first page. Zedland support is also pretty cool, and I think that pretty much covers things. Oh, we have the decent card for Mag. It's kind of you have the really strong new Alfini order that you can play from drop. The Bastion support as well. This is basically like Alden but power crept. Let's see, what else do we have in this list? Oh, yeah, Nannaclir. Dude, Nannaclir wasn't even on the front page. Oh my gosh, did I miss it? There's no way Nannaclir was on the front page and I missed it. Oh my gosh, poor Nannaclir. So yeah, Nannaclir is quite the deck. I think it really does need that crazy 3rd wave of support, but it is quite a weird position, right? Okay, it's at $11, which like isn't great, especially when you look at the other boss units that are closer to like 20 US. or 18 US. So Nannaclir is kind of a weird Vanguard, or in the sense that like it feels it's hard to say it even feels playable out of the box. It's just a very weird Vanguard at the time it came out, and the second wave support conflicts with the order because they didn't want you to get 2 crits stacked if you have seen those reveals. So during your turn, if you have 3 or more rear guards with one who arrived at Paradise, your world becomes straight guard and gets triple drive. Easiest condition in the world for this deck. The red line sets it up very easily. Then act on Vanguard Circle. You can Energy Blast 3 to look at the top 5 cards of your deck. Call to rear guard circle, put it in your hand if it's the order, and shuffle the deck. If you called a unit with one who arrived at Paradise, it gets +5, and if you added the order has the text to reveal it and draw 1. Then auto Vanguard Circle on attack, you counter boss 1, stand with your rears, and yeah, you just CB1 stand, and you have triple drive. So you have decent numbers, triple drive, but you're only a 4 attack deck, and the deck doesn't really have any extra defensive utility. It's not like Night Rose where you can really have, you know, that kind of deck, basically deck building to really strengthen the defense of your deck. So you don't really have gimmicks like, you know, with Night Rose where you can hostage PG, ghost chase PGs back to hand. So Nannaclir's defense is definitely really on the low side. So if you're not hitting triggers, you kind of just like explode. Seemia Fleet is also really cheap. We have the Lettuce. Where's Leaves Feather Dragon? Or was he on the first page? He might have been on the first page and I missed him. Some other cards we got, we have Aquilibria support for Lane Shaft Dragon. Kind of nice to pick up. It's just an extra +5 if you're not doing 3+ attacks because you went first. Your restanders are your grade 3 locked. New Gramphia's in here. Poor Gramphia, double rare, $1. But like if you are a Gramphia fan, definitely pick it up or go for some high rarity. This is some of the ride lines on the first page too. I saw the Juicy Fruity card, kind of skipped over that. Let's see what else is there. Okay, some of the SRs popping up. There's a random Gravidia support in here as well. This is the Bastion card that attacks an entire column. I remember when this was revealed. This card is hilarious. Juicy Fruity is also in here if you want, like, if you're a Lyrical main and you want something for Constructed Cup, you can. It is quite the funny Vanguard because of the skill that copies the trigger effects. Let me pull it up. I have to wait for it to load first. So first off, the Bastion card, really funny. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Bastion, you E3 to end a turn. When this unit will attack, it battles all of your opponent's units in a column, and in turn retire this unit. So if you're fighting a Stashion, you can attack the Blast token, which I think is hilarious. And then you could also be mean and like restand this off a cord. For Juicy Fruity, you have a really cool effect for the basically copying trigger effects. So if you would hit like Orange OT, Blue OT, you know, those trigger effects are copied to the plant token. Also triple drive, you get to get plant tokens, they also get power, so pretty fun Vanguard, I would say. Nothing crazy in terms of lyrical, but if you do need something for a Constructed Cup, you know, this is quite the option. And I think that's most of the random stuff. We have Eugene support, Rotovisor support, random Greedon support. We also have, this is the other card, I kind of glazed over the other Chris Rain card, sorry, not Chris Rain card, not Chris Rain, it was Artist Aria card. This is the Lishkafel card. So you basically get to shove Abelina back to Soul, because I know that's a problem that sometimes comes up, where you run out of your grade 2 restander, so you can shove it back to Soul, then use the other grade 1 to call it out. And then of course when it's shoved to Soul, you can restand your back row, so you could boost with Yuika, stand it, swing with Abelina, or you could do, you know, the double restander combo with Lishkafel, where you give all triggers to the you give all the triggers to the Abelina on side, restand Vanguard, swing that, and then, you know, get the restand of Abelina, and then end of battle you can Yuika bounce Abelina back if you are, you know, scared of losing those restanders. But at worst, if you run out of them, you can shove them to Soul and have a chance to get it called out from drop. But yeah, that pretty much, you know, I probably talked way too much here. What are we at? So we're at 13 minutes. Okay, I could yap for like a little bit more. Let's see, what else is in here? Okay, some of the SRs are coming out here. Oh, here's the friend support for Tia. I think it's just showing me the SRs FRs because I have it set on best match. Oh, the new Noblesse Rosa token for Gramphia. Okay, I'm just gonna search by. Let's go for best selling. Let's see what people are buying right now on TCG. So of course the THIRD Mythisch are up here. Of course the favorite decks, you have Nannaclir, Draconis, the stuff we already talked about. This is the Odium support we already talked about. There's Leaves Feather Dragon. Leaves Feather Dragon's an okay card. You know, it's kind of like the first shipper that basically Nannaclir is getting. So good to see it there on the first page. People are excited for the deck. Here's the other grade 2 for Bastion. It does help find your grade 3s, the Dark Siren stuff. So yeah, when you look at the amount of triple rares in the set, there's actually not that much. There's also no collab in this set. I thought Mygo was in this set, but I was completely wrong. So unfortunately, there's no collab or like special energies in this set, which really hurts because I believe JP got, I think it was it the Michelle? I think it was one of the Bang Dream triggers, but I could be wrong. There's the Rotovisor support again. Yeah, there really isn't all that much in this set. Like, looking back on the videos that I made for the reveals, it was quite exciting. But looking at this set overall, now that it's come to English and now that we know what the meta will look like, this set doesn't really have anything that's really that meta relevant. Like, at least for Super Brave Detonation for set 9, we knew Minerva and Hardluru would be really, really good. For these decks, it's kind of hard to say. I think Drajewel is underrated in my opinion, but I don't think it's like a front meta contender. But like, you'll still see it like pop up. You'll still see it in GP team results. These are more of the comments. Oh my gosh, it's Eddie Draco Kid. We have more Gurgions, more of the dogs for Houndriser. Nannaclir definitely is not meta relevant. You have Liael-Draconis is a little bit weird. It has some results, but I think it's kind of a very inconsistent deck, honestly, depending on, you know, the pilot and the build. And then when it comes to, like, what else is that? Oh, Vice is pretty consistent, but it definitely has fallen off in terms of results. At least for the first WGP we got in Tokyo, I do think Vice Ruger is still quite good in this meta. Like, it's mostly because of the red decks, but the red decks are kind of falling off a bit. And Prison is maybe a little bit of a hard matchup because their Soul and CB could be tight. But I don't think it's really that bad. I think Vice Ruger is still quite playable in this meta. Okay, yeah, we're just going through more FRs and whatnot. Let's see what other settings are there. But yeah, that's pretty much it from me. I think this set is something, I don't think you are really touching this set, honestly, unless you play like one of these 3 decks or you're interested in Venator or one of the new rad lines. I think the support in this set is honestly not the greatest, as you can tell from my impressions and yapping. I think if you're a big fan of Nannaclir, any of the new decks, again, stating before, Venetal, whatever, definitely pick things up. But yeah, if you do look at the double rares and triples, it really isn't too much to show. I'm definitely the most excited about trying out Impervious Dragon. I think he's kind of weird to fit into the deck, and right now because we don't have Nebonite order, I think there's a little bit more tight of space. Right now I'm trying out, what's it called? Leo and Matrosa in the slots. I think definitely you want to play Magnetis in Ava and Ediglima. Definitely at least 3. I think most lists are on 4, but you know, something like that. Because you just want that consistency of like free early game board. But yeah, that's pretty much for me. If you do want to check this out, I'll link TCG Player down below. Just do keep in mind they only ship to America. So TCG Player, actually, I think there's some stuff for EU. I'm not too sure about the updates because I honestly haven't ordered from TCG Player in like forever, or I just haven't. So thank you guys so much for watching. Just know that TCG Player is definitely mostly an American website for sure. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy these kind of yapping MarketWatch videos, do let me know. I do think in terms of like the set itself, like I don't want to give it a rating, but I would rate it pretty low if that was the case. I think if you are really excited about these decks, again, you'll pick them up. And if you do see like the really cheap double rares and triple rares, get them on release because the first week they will usually be pretty cheap is what you'll see as pattern for most Vanguard sets. And then later on is when they'll like change or go up and down, and you know, you'll see how things go. But yeah, the double rares are obviously really, really cheap. The triple rares, you can kind of wait a bit if you do want to see if they get a little bit cheaper, especially for decks like, you know, Magnus and Draconis and stuff, and then Nannaclir. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in another video.